International success stories in Finnish music have been few and far between. That is why bands such as Hanoi Rocks and Nightwish are practically part of the national consciousness. Another more recent example of Finnish music abroad is Santa Cruz, a band with quite a story to say the least. For several years now, frontman Arttu Archie Cruz Kuosmanen has been the undisputed leader of Santa Cruz. He formed the band in Helsinki together with guitarist Joonas Johnny Cruz Parkkonen in 2007. The group's name is derived from the California city of the same name, which is quite appropriate given the band's hair metal influenced sound. Over time, the band's lineup was rounded out by bassist Mitja Midi Cruz Toivonen and drummer Tapani Tassi Cruz Fagerström. After 2 independently released EPs, Santa Cruz signed with Spinefarm Records and unleashed their debut album Screaming for Adrenaline in 2013. The record was well received by both fans and critics, with Chaoszine remarking that had it been released in a different era, undoubtedly many of its songs would have been big hits. On the back of the album's release, Santa Cruz toured Europe as the opening act for Skid Row. The following year, Santa Cruz headed to the other side of the Atlantic and played their first shows in the US. 2015 was a good year for Santa Cruz. The band's self-titled second album shot straight to number 3 in Finland and garnered a fair bit of acclaim from critics, including Chaoszine, who described the album as a piece of fresh, crisp, and well-crafted heavy metal. The band also played a number of gigs opening for AC/DC, Scorpions, and Amaranth, among others. The following year, Santa Cruz made waves in the US after appearing on Access TV's Breaking Band, where they were mentored by rock legend Sebastian Bach. This also garnered the group an opening slot on Bach's North American tour. A year later, Santa Cruz were included on Rolling Stone's list of 10 new artists you need to know. Add that to a new recording deal, and the stage was set for Santa Cruz to take the world by storm. Santa Cruz's third album, in hindsight the aptly named Bad Blood Rising, was released in 2017. It charted at number 5 in Finland and garnered further acclaim from critics. Chaoszine stated, "Based on this album, one can only expect a continuation of the band's rising momentum."
That one didn't age quite so well.
All seemed well until March 2018, when the band announced the cancellation of all their upcoming tour dates. In addition, Parkkonen, Toivonen, and Fagerström all announced that they had left Santa Cruz. Parkkonen stated on his Instagram account, "I can no longer be in a situation where I have to live in constant fear of someone doing irreparable harm to themselves or to others." Clearly, some kind of incident had taken place, as Archie Cruz stated that he had been thrown out of the band's tour bus in the middle of nowhere. The breakup of Santa Cruz came as quite a shock to the band's fans. For weeks, the messy situation was covered extensively by the Finnish media, until the announcement came. Archie Cruz would continue as the band's only remaining original member. Archie has since stated that the band's breakup was the result of years of bad blood between the group's members. Since leaving Santa Cruz, Parkkonen has worked mainly as a producer for groups such as Apocalyptica and Blind Channel. Toivonen teamed up with the late Aleksi in Bonum After Midnight, while Fagerström joined Lost Society in 2020. Less than a month after Santa Cruz's spectacular breakup, Archie Cruz was already introducing the group's next guitarist, American native Brody DeRosie. This didn't last, however, as DeRosie left the band a month later. After approximately a year of silence, Santa Cruz resurfaced in 2019 with a new lineup, featuring guitarist Pavel Pav Cruz Popov, bassist Eemi Ero Cruz Lamberg, and drummer Tuomas Taxi Cruz Lehtonen. The band also released a new single, Changing of Seasons, which took many of the band's fans by surprise with its many metalcore influences. Maybe this was Archie's way of saying new winds were blowing in Santa Cruz. Nevertheless, the band spent much of the summer touring tirelessly across the world. Santa Cruz's new lineup stirred up a lot of strong feelings in the band's old fans, many of whom were not entirely sold on the prospect of Santa Cruz continuing on. This wasn't helped by the group's new album, Catharsis, which got a mediocre response to say the least. It barely cracked the top 30 in Finland, while Chaoszine described it as amateurish and haphazardly put together. Archie Cruz was quick to respond, however, railing against the band's critics on social media. Things took another unfortunate turn when Popov left Santa Cruz in September 2019, although the circumstances of his departure remain somewhat contentious between the two parties. With the help of guitarist Joe Perez, the band finished another US tour, after which Santa Cruz entered another period of hibernation. Archie Cruz spent most of 2020 in the Finnish tabloids. First, he got engaged to his American model girlfriend, with whom he released some, racy material online. Soon, Archie moved to Los Angeles, but it didn't take long for him to return to Finland amidst allegations of domestic abuse. This was naturally followed up by a stint in rehab. By this point, Emil Lamberg had had enough and left Santa Cruz. He has since joined Saint Aurora. In 2021, Santa Cruz staged a small comeback with 2 new singles, neither of which really set the world on fire. Disappointed, Archie decided to start the band's next record from scratch. Santa Cruz's latest lineup features guitarist Jerry Jade, bassist Tommy Bradley, and drummer Randy McDinian. We got our first taste of new music in February with the single Under the Gun, while a big comeback show was held in April at the legendary Whiskey A Go Go in Los Angeles. Everything didn't go smoothly, however, and Santa Cruz found themselves yet again at the center of another public lambasting. Nevertheless, the band's 5th album, The Return of the Kings, was released in the fall of 2022. The story of Santa Cruz can be seen as a cautionary tale of what happens when a huge buzz is suddenly turned on its head. Despite this, the band's story, with all of its twists and turns, is classic rock and roll. And who knows, maybe that famed comeback is still on the horizon. Say what you will about Archie Cruz, but one thing is certain: there's a guy who doesn't give up easily.